The galaxy was old and quiet. The stars burned in their places, just as they had for millions of cycles. Ancient paths of travel crossed the dark, watched by civilizations that believed nothing new could surprise them anymore. They believed the universe had already shown its worst. The alien known as Kerith believed that too. Kerith lived on a world of white stone and deep oceans. His people were ancient thinkers, not warriors. They watched the galaxy instead of ruling it. They recorded patterns, predicted dangers, and survived by knowing when to hide. They believed survival came from caution. Kerith worked in the deep archive, where memories of extinct stars and dead species were stored. He studied old disasters, supernova chains, reality storms, wars that burned entire sectors empty. One record appeared again and again, hidden behind sealed warnings. A region of space erased from maps. No stars listed, no travel allowed. The archive called it the Silent Vault. Kerith had always wondered why. Then the alarms began. At first, the warning was soft, a small vibration through the archive walls. Energy readings that did not match any known drive. Not a weapon, not a star birth. Something rough, imprecise, primitive, Kareth. Felt fear rise in his chest, not because the signal was strong, but because it was wrong. Moments later, the sky above his world changed. The space bent. Light twisted into sharp lines. A tear appeared where nothing should exist. Something had forced its way into faster-than-light space without permission. The Silent Vault reacted instantly. Ancient machines woke from sleep. Defensive systems older than Kerith's species began to move. They did not target the intruder. They targeted everything nearby. Kerith's world shook. Cities cracked. Oceans rose without warning. Satellites fell like burning rain. The vault did not care who was guilty. It only cared that a rule had been broken. Kerith ran as the ground split beneath him. He felt heat, then cold. He smelled burning air and dying metal. His people screamed across the planetary network as power failed everywhere at once. In the sky, the tear grew wider. The intruding signal was still there, small, unstable, barely holding together. Kerith saw the truth. Then this was not an invasion, it was a mistake. Some young species had jumped too far, too blind, too weak to understand what they had touched. The vault answered with extinction. A wave of energy washed across Kerith's world. Entire cities vanished. The archive collapsed behind him, taking the history of his people with it. Kerith was thrown into darkness as emergency pods launched without order. His world died in silence. Hours later, drifting in broken orbit, Kerith watched the remains of his home turn into glowing dust. Nothing was left but fragments and ghosts. The vault went quiet again, but the intruder remained. Kerith accessed long-range scans through his damaged pod. The signal still pulsed inside the forbidden region, crude, unrefined, alive. The data marked it as a living species' first jump. No galactic signature, no ancient code, just raw force and desperation. Kerith searched for a name. There was none. The records labeled the species as insignificant, pre-spaced, short-lived, fragile. Yet, the vault had awakened for them. Before his pod lost power, one final message unlocked itself in the ruins of the Silent Vault. A message older than fear that did not name the species. It did not show images. It contained only one word. Kerith drifted alone through cold space, carried by systems that were never meant to last this long. His escape pod moved slowly, pushed by fading power and old momentum. Behind him, his world was gone. Ahead of him, the forbidden region still glowed with quiet energy. The Silent Vault had not fully shut down. Fragments of its ancient network still whispered through space. Kerith listened. It was all he had left. The vault was not a weapon in the simple sense. It was a memory machine, a warning system built by a species far older than Kerith's own. A species that once ruled the galaxy and then erased itself on purpose. As the data streamed in, Kerith felt a deeper fear than before. The vault had not awakened to stop a war. It had awakened to confirm a prediction. Long ago, the Ancient Ones had mapped possible futures. They had studied stars, evolution, and thought itself. They searched for patterns that repeated no matter how the galaxy changed. One pattern frightened them more than any supernova. A type of species that rose late, weak in body, slow in technology, short in lifespan, yet impossible to break. The records showed simulations, millions of them. Each one ended the same way. This species suffered more than any other. They lost worlds, families, and entire histories. They felt fear deeply. They felt painfully, and they kept going. Other species collapsed under loss. They chose safety, control, or silence. This one chose endurance. The ancient ones called it a persistence anomaly. They could not control it. They could not erase it without destroying the future itself. So they built the silent vault, not to stop the species, but to watch for it. Karith's hands trembled as he scrolled deeper. The data was old, older than his people's first cities, and yet the markers matched the intruding signal perfectly. A first faster-than-light jump, crude energy control, no understanding of galactic law, no awareness of what waited beyond their sky. The vault had labeled the species as harmless at first, too small to matter, too divided to threaten anyone. That was how it always began. Karith looked out through the cracked viewport. The intruding signal still flickered. It was unstable, barely holding together. The galaxy would destroy it soon. Other civilizations were already moving. They would see the damage. They would demand answers. And when they learned the truth, they would choose the safest path. Erase the source. Karith knew that choice well. His own people had believed in caution, in control, in survival at any cost. That belief had ended his world. The vault sent one final stream of data before falling silent again. Not a warning, not a command, a record. It showed future timelines branching and collapsing. In most of them, the galaxy burned itself out through fear and rigid order. In a few rare lines, something else happened. The weak species survived long enough to matter, and when it did, the galaxy changed. Karith felt a strange conflict inside him. Fear, yes, but also something close to hope. The insignificant species did not know what it had done. It had not meant to be seen. It had not meant to wake ancient systems or draw the eye of empires. It had simply jumped. As Karith's pod finally lost power, he sent a single data pulse toward the intruding signal. Not a greeting, not a warning, a marker. So the galaxy would remember where it all began. Far away, unseen and unaware, the fragile species continued its first steps into the dark, and the civilizations of the galaxy began to prepare for a future they had once believed impossible. The galaxy did not mourn Karith's world for long. Loss was common among the stars. Extinction was a statistic. What frightened the great civilizations was not the destruction itself. It was the cause. A forbidden region had awakened. Ancient systems had moved without permission, and at the center of it all was a weak, unnamed species that had crossed a boundary without knowing it existed. The councils gathered in distant systems. Cold minds studied the data. Emotion was seen as a flaw, and fear was hidden behind logic. The conclusion came quickly. The new species was a risk. They had no place in galactic history, no alliances, no protection. Their technology was crude, their ships unstable, their energy, signatures chaotic dot from an alien view. They were children playing with fire. Observation fleets were dispatched, not to greet, not to help, to measure. The fragile species called themselves humans. Their first faster-than-light ship limped back into normal space, damaged by the jump. The crew celebrated survival, unaware that thousands of alien sensors now watched them. To the galaxy, the humans looked small. Soft bodies, short lives, no natural armor, no psychic shields. The councils agreed on a test. If humans failed, they would be erased quietly. If they survived, the galaxy would reconsider. The first pressure was subtle. The navigation signals vanished near human space. Trade routes collapsed before they could form. Unmapped hazards appeared where none should exist. Human ships were lost. Some vanished without a trace. Others returned broken, carrying crews marked by fear and grief. From a distance, the aliens observed. Humans reacted with confusion at first, then anger, then determination. They sent more ships. The second, pressure was harsher. Automated defense drones drifted into human systems, claiming ancient territorial rights. They did not attack directly. They forced humans into impossible choices. Abandon colonies or lose ships. Turn back or die in silence. Humans lost again. Stations burned. Early settlements failed. Names were added to lists that grew longer every cycle. Alien analysts marked this as the breaking point. Most species stopped here. They accepted limits. They retreated inward. They chose survival over expansion. Humans did not. Instead of withdrawing, they changed. Ships were redesigned using wreckage and failure as guides. Pilots trained longer, harder, knowing many would not return. Engineers pushed unsafe limits, accepting risk as normal. Loss did not slow them, it sharpened them. The councils noticed something strange. Human signals did not fade after disaster. They increased. Where fear should have caused silence, humans grew louder. They shared stories of the dead. They named ships after fallen crews. They remembered everything. This confused the observers. Pain was supposed to weaken a species. In humans, it seemed to bind them together. The third pressure was direct. A boundary was declared around the Silent Vault region. Any human vessel crossing it would be destroyed. The message was clear: stop or be erased. Human leaders argued. Data showed the risk. Losses were already severe. By every logical measure, retreat was the correct choice. Then, a single human ship crossed the line. It was not advanced. It was not powerful. It carried no weapons meant for war. It carried survivors from destroyed colonies, families, engineers, pilots who had already lost everything once. Alien weapons locked on. Observers waited for panic, for retreat, for surrender. The ship did not turn back. Its engines burned beyond. Safe limits hull plates tore away. Radiation flooded the interior. Still, it moved forward. For the first time, uncertainty spread through the councils. Because this was not logic. This was not strategy. This was refusal. And as the human ship crossed deeper into forbidden space, ancient systems within the Silent Vault began to activate once more. The galaxy watched in disbelief. The human ship continued its burn into forbidden space. Alien weapons tracked it with perfect accuracy, yet no order to fire came. The councils hesitated, not out of mercy, but confusion. The ship should have turned back. Any rational species would have. Its structure was failing. Life support was unstable. Every calculation showed total loss. Still, the humans advanced. Inside the ship, systems screamed warnings. Engines ran past red limits. Metal groaned and cracked under stress. Radiation levels climbed higher than survival standards allowed. The humans felt it all. Fear was present. Pain was constant. Loss was already carved into their memories, but none of it stopped them. To the alien observers, this behavior made no sense. They reviewed cultural models again and again. Humans were classified as emotionally unstable. Their attachment to individuals was seen as a weakness. Their refusal to accept loss was marked as a flaw. Yet here it was again. The humans did not slow when conditions worsened. They did not abandon the mission to preserve life. They accepted that survival was uncertain and moved forward anyway. Alien analysts began to notice a pattern. Human ships performed better after failure. Crews with the highest loss records showed the strongest resolve. Systems built under desperation proved more flexible than perfect alien designs. Humans did not aim for safety. They aimed for a continuation. The ship crossed another threshold. Ancient sensors within the Silent Vault awakened fully. Energy flows adjusted in response not to technology, but to behavior. The vault measured persistence, endurance, refusal to disengage. Data streams flooded. The council's old symbols reappeared. Warnings written by extinct minds resurfaced. The same word repeated across every ancient system. Inevitable, the councils argued now. Some demanded immediate destruction of the ship. Others warned that interference might trigger deeper systems. No one fully understood the vault's purpose anymore. While they debated, the humans endured. The ship lost an engine, then another. Internal fires burned unchecked. Medical bays overflowed. Still, course was maintained. The observers saw humans carrying injured crew to stations with failing gravity. They saw operators stay at their posts long past safe exposure limits. They saw humans refuse evacuation when escape pods activated automatically. This behavior was logged as irrational, then reclassified as dangerous. Humans were not fearless. They were afraid, but fear did not control their actions. Death was not a stopping point to them. It was a possibility already accepted. Vault responded again. A structure deep within forbidden space unfolded, older than any living species. Powered by principles lost to time, it did not attack. It opened. The human ship crossed its boundary and vanished from external sensors. Silence followed. Alien weapons stood ready. Councils waited for confirmation of destruction. Analysts prepared extinction protocols for the remaining human worlds. Minutes passed, then hours. No wreckage appeared. No explosion marked the ships. And, instead, the silent vault began broadcasting across multiple galactic bands, a signal not heard in millions of years. The message was incomplete, fragmented by time and damage, but its meaning was unmistakable. The trial was not meant to break the humans. It was meant to reveal them, and somewhere inside the ancient structure, the human ship continued its journey. Into the unknown, towards something that had been waiting for them far longer than anyone realized. The silent vault did not explode. It did not collapse. It did not defend itself. It accepted the human ship inside the ancient structure. Space behaved differently. Gravity shifted in slow waves. Time felt stretched and uneven. Systems older than memory scanned the vessel without touching it. The ship should have fallen apart by every known rule of physics. It should have failed. Completely. It did not. The vault was not measuring hull strength or weapon power. It was measuring something else. Continuation under suffering. The humans inside were barely holding on. Air was thin. Power was unstable. Injuries were everywhere. Still, tasks were completed. Repairs were attempted. Navigation was maintained. Not because success was guaranteed, but because stopping was not an option. Outside, the galaxy waited. Alien observers monitored the vault with rising unease. No system response made sense. Ancient defenses remained inactive. Energy levels continued to rise without becoming hostile. Then the real threat arrived. From beyond mapped space, a massive gravitational distortion emerged. A collapse wave left over from a long-dead cosmic cycle, something even the ancient civilizations had failed to stop. The reason the silent vault existed, the ancient species had not erased themselves out of fear. They had stepped aside. They had seen what was coming. The collapse wave moved through star systems without mercy. Advanced alien worlds reacted too slowly. Their rigid systems failed to adapt. Their perfect defenses shattered under conditions they had never trained for. Entire fleets were lost in moments. The councils issued emergency orders. Evacuations failed. Escape corridors collapsed. Logic had no answer, and then the vault reacted. Fully, ancient systems linked to the human ship, not granting control, but allowing access. The humans did not understand everything they saw. They did not need to. They pushed systems beyond intended limits. They rerouted energy in unsafe ways. They made imperfect solutions work through effort and sacrifice. The vault did not resist. It adapted to them, using the human ship as a core. The structure projected a stabilizing field into the path of the collapse wave. Not clean, not efficient, but resilient. The wave struck. Space twisted violently. Energy tore at the field. Any other species would have disengaged to preserve itself. The humans did not. The ship burned. Crew members died. Systems failed and were restarted again and again. The field held. Slowly, painfully, the collapse wave weakened. Its destructive force broken not by superiority, but by refusal to yield across the galaxy. Sensors confirmed the impossible. The collapse had been stopped. Not erased, not controlled. Endured. Silence followed. Alien worlds remained intact. Fleets drifted in shock. Councils lost all ability to speak with certainty. The human ship, finally, went dark, drifting inside the vault. Broken but intact, the ancient systems powered down. Their purpose fulfilled. Records unlocked across the vault network. And ancient conclusions made clear at last. The galaxy was never meant to be saved by the strongest species or the smartest. It was meant to be carried forward by the one that could suffer endlessly and continue anyway. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy understood its mistake. Humans were not a fragile risk to be erased. They were a solution that arrived late, and as rescue fleets finally moved toward the silent vault, a new truth spread faster than fear ever had. Humanity had passed the trial. The rescue fleets arrived too late to help, but not too late to witness what remained. The silent vault drifted in open space, calm and quiet. Its ancient systems were dim. Its vast structures showed signs of final rest. At the center floated the human ship. It was broken, burned, scarred beyond any standard of repair. yet it was still whole. Alien crews moved carefully, expecting traps, expecting delayed weapons. There were none inside the ship. They found survivors, wounded, exhausted, barely alive. They had no strength left to resist, no strength left to fear. They had already given everything. The data recovered from the vaults spread across the galaxy. Within hours, records, once sealed by extinct minds, were now open. Their truth could no longer be denied. The prehistoric species had not vanished in failure. They had stepped aside with intention. They had known what the galaxy would face. They had known that logic alone would fail, that perfect systems would break when pushed beyond design. They searched for a species that could suffer without stopping, that could accept loss without surrender, that could move forward even when hope was gone. They found humanity. Alien civilizations struggled to understand it. Humans were not the strongest, not the most advanced, not the most unified, but they endured. Where other species froze in fear, humans acted. Where others withdrew to preserve themselves, humans stayed. Death did not stop them. Pain did not silence them. Loss did not teach them submission. It taught